That's an exciting news for you all, and as soon as I heard that from Andy, and I was like, I have to share it with you guys. Hey folks, welcome back. My name is GK, and if you're new to this channel, this is where I share a lot of amazing cloud content and a lot of other content that can upskill your career. So the way Andy Jassy started, it was really inspiring for me personally, because he started creating the perfect segue to introduce AWS services and also talk more about AWS. So he emphasized initially more on the growth of AWS, and then he said how reinvention for each company is very important because each company has to reinvent. So slowly then he basically built up a story saying that you have to reinvent, and if you want to reinvent, you have to reinvent faster, and you want to reinvent in a cloud that provides a lot of services. So that's when he went to AWS, and then he started introducing all the AWS services. So it's amazing, like, how a leader can perfectly take a journey right from the growth and then taking into services. It's an awesome story that he has said, and I was thoroughly impressed by his keynote. So first and foremost thing, he talked about the growth of AWS, how it's growing faster, like 29% growth, and then 48 billion run rate. And then he also talked about how pandemic has increased the companies getting into cloud, and how it has accelerated the cloud journey for a lot of companies. And then he went on to talk about how companies have to reinvent. They cannot sustain in their own way, or they cannot sustain in their own business model. They have to get into new stuff. They have to reinvent themselves. He was talking about the Fortune companies and how it was before and now where those companies are that were standing there for a long time, and how it is changing dynamically because how companies are reinventing. He took few examples of Airbnb. So his key takeaway for a lot of companies was to go faster in reinventing and do not waste your time. And talking on to that, he talked about 8 key leadership points where companies have to invest to reinvent. So I've taken some notes because there are a lot of things that I wanted to discuss. So the first one is leadership will to invest and reinvent. So he talked about how leaders have to create aggressive goals to invest, and so how they have to get the right data and try to take some risks and get into invention and stuff. So that's what he explained there. And the second point, he said acknowledgement that you cannot fight gravity. So that was a very good takeaway personally for me. So here he was trying to say that there are certain things that are going to happen during your invention. You observe with your companies. Like for example, he took an example of eBay, and eBay was introducing resellers in their marketplace. I mean, initially Amazon had their own data warehouse, and they used to buy products and they used to sell products to the customers from their warehouse. But then they saw the business model of eBay. So how they allowed third-party resellers to sell on their eBay, and there was a huge discussion on that. But Amazon finally implemented that, and now most of their products that are sold on Amazon are from third-party seller. So he used the word cannibalizing yourself multiple times, I guess, in the thing, which means like you want to, if you have any thoughts about the current model, you have to kill that and move on. You cannot stick to the same model. And he also took other example of Netflix, where Netflix initially started selling DVDs. So one thing that I would recommend is watch a Netflix movie that is there in Amazon Prime if you haven't watched it. So initially they used to ship DVDs to their customers, and then eventually they cannibalized their idea of shipping DVDs, and they started working on streaming the content. So that's where he took the example of Netflix. And then the other key leadership point was talent that's hunger to invent. The new blood will invent faster. I mean, that's something I think been Amazon's or AWS's motto as well, sort of, because you see a lot of AWS people hiring, a lot of AWS company hiring, and they invest a lot on the new talent, and they pay huge money for new talent. So I think what he was trying to say was like, so people who are staying in the same company for longer period of time, so first thing, they have to reinvent their skills, or they have to learn new skills. It is tough for them. And second, most of the time they would defend and they would try to maintain the status quo, because they would defend whatever they have built for over the period of time, for a lot of years. So new people who are coming to the company, the new blood will always look for changes, and they would introduce good changes and some disruptive changes that might be good for the company. So that's what he talked about. And the other thing he talked about, and which is very common in AWS, and since I've worked with a lot of AWS BDs and their employees, their biggest criteria is solving customers' problem. So what he was trying to say there was, try to always solve customer problem rather than using the technology to look cool. And speed, and obviously, is very important. I mean, we all know in DevOps as well, speed to market or velocity are the key terms. So he was saying that it doesn't matter what you do, but you have to implement it faster. So if you want to implement it faster, make sure that you don't complexify the problem. I mean, don't create complex solutions. Create a simple solution that's going to solve the problem. So now, slowly, after talking about the leadership things, he's taking you to a point where he's trying to say that use platform with the widest and deepest set of tools. So basically, he was trying to say, like, if you want to reinvent, you have to use a platform that has lot of services and that gives you an opportunity to invent easily. I think that's a very good example with AWS, because when compared to Azure or GCP or any other service, any other cloud service provider, they have a lot of services, and they have a lot of services even for a one use case, meaning like in container itself, they have 3 or 4 services. So basically what he's trying to say is, pick a platform that gives you a lot of opportunities to invent. This is again very important for a lot of enterprises and corporations, where you have to set aggressive top-down goals. He took example of one company, I forgot the name, but where he said, like, so that company CFO, I think, gave a serious target of, gave a very aggressive target of going into cloud in few months or few years. They have achieved that, and then they have set another aggressive target. So that's one example he took, and then basically he's asking leadership to set aggressive targets to go to cloud. So far what I've discussed was about the leadership takeaways. So now we are going to talk about the key service announcements, the key announcement that he has made for services. And then I'm not going to go over some of the services like ML space or automobile space or IoTs, because that's not I generally work on, and I don't think you will also be interested in that area for now. So I'll be more targeting on the compute and other services that I felt are important. So from the container offerings, now containers can go on-prem. I think they are going in the lines of GCP again here to compete with GCP. Basically they are saying use all their 3 services, like basically ECS anywhere and EKS anywhere, and you can run ECS and EKS on-premise now, and they made EKS completely open source, and they gave away EKS distribution as an open source, and I don't know if they have it in the GitHub yet, but I guess he mentioned some date. But that's very good thing for open source community, and that's good thing for AWS as well, because they might be getting a lot of good contributions from online. And he said that more and more people are going to invest a lot of their compute on the microservices front using containers and serverless, and it just keeps increasing. More than EC2s or VMs, people would invest their time and effort and money on containers and serverless. So speaking of serverless, one exciting announcement that he has made was Lambda is now for 1 millisecond billing, which that would reduce 70% of the cost for a lot of companies. So from their Amazon.com as well, whatever they are trying to invent, the new stuff, 50% of that is on Lambda. So that's a awesome thing, and that's what he talked about for serverless. And the most important thing, and that's exciting for a lot of people, it's like Cloud Run, I guess, for Google Cloud people, but Lambda is going to have support of containers. So you can package your containers, you can build using Docker containers, and then you can deploy it as a Lambda function. In AWS, it is tough to manage a pipeline or deploy into Lambda. That's been a constant struggle. Even in my company, we struggle a lot how to create the pipeline, and we have our own Jenkins pipeline sometimes, but it is not that great. So AWS has launched Amazon Proton, a managed service for serverless and container application. Again, maybe when in future videos I will try to do something in that space and come up with some tutorials, but that's another important thing, and this shows like AWS is actually listening to their customers, and they're coming up with some very good services. So that's all for containers and serverless. Now moving on, so they launched GP3, which is 20% better cost per gig when compared to GP2, and IO2, which has 64K max IOPS, and IO2 Block Express, that's especially built for SAN. So those three, and he also mentioned that they are investing more on creating their own chips, but they have very good partnership with Intel and AMD. But having said that, he also said like they are investing a lot on designing their own chips, because that way they can deliver best value. Now let's talk about databases. One good thing, I'm sure you might have heard this, like Amazon already has Aurora Serverless version, which was there before as well. So most of the time that was more useful for non-production environments, and we also in our company we tried to evaluate that, and then we thought we would just do a POCs, and it wasn't there to the production grade yet. But he made this year, in this year's announcement, so they fixed the cold start issue, which is a common thing for Lambda functions or for any serverless compute. Cold start is a period where the time it takes to spin up the new resources, or for the first time whenever you're trying to hit the service. So that they've fixed. But this Aurora Serverless V2 is only available for MySQL now, but I think it's in 2021 they're going to launch it for Postgres as well. So one good thing about Andy is he never mince words. I mean, he would attack at his competitors very aggressively, and that's what he has done with Microsoft and Oracle again. But this time he attacked Microsoft, and I felt he has done the right thing, because Microsoft was trying to monopolize their database offerings by saying that you cannot move the license to GCP, or you cannot move license to AWS. You have to use only if you want to use SQL Server, you have to use the only SQL Server in Azure. So they were doing something like that, and he attacked them, and he said like companies are going to move into the open systems more and more. So that's where Amazon has introduced a service called Babelfish. If you're running an application that is currently connecting to SQL Server, you don't have to do anything. So Babelfish will take care of making sure that the application is compatible with Postgres without making a lot of changes. The other important thing, I think that's where he's trying to beat Microsoft, is he said like Babelfish project is going to be available in GitHub. So he made it completely open source, and they made it completely open source, and it's going to be available in 2021. So look out for that GitHub URL if you're interested in that project. And there is a new service called AWS Glue Elastic Views that would create a materialized views to move data easily from one data store to another data store. One awesome thing for machine learning is, so Amazon has launched a new service called SageMaker Pipeline. So that's for CI/CD for machine learning, and that's been a constant struggle as well in the machine learning space for companies who are trying to build a CI/CD pipeline. So now I'm going to talk about the other exciting service, which is called Amazon DevOps Guru. I haven't gone through the documentation yet. Again, I might come up with some videos on this. So what they're trying to do here is that they're trying to help you to foresee if there could be any issue in your production once the code is deployed, or once the application is deployed. I think they're going to use your CloudFormation stacks and bunch of other things and your logs, and then analyze on top of your logs and CloudFormation stacks, and then alert you that there might be a chance that you might hit a production issue sooner or later. Considering my current application, which is a highly mission critical application, so this is something I was very interested in, and I would like to spend some time on this. Again, these might be very new services. To use these services at an enterprise level, it takes some time and effort to be approved. But again, this is an exciting news for all the DevOps people who are out there. So it can be alerted through SNS, Slack, or CloudWatch events. So that's with AWS DevOps Guru. So for BI, they come up with a service called Amazon QuickSight Queue, so that will automatically create dashboards based on ML. You don't have to do anything, you just have to say, and then it will create a dashboard, and it will suggest you the graphs and all. So that's good news for the BI people. And there were a bunch of other services for contact center which were important from my perspective. So that's with the services. Now coming to the main thing, that's an exciting news for you all. And as soon as I heard that from Andy, and I was like, I have to share it with you guys, because this is an awesome thing, and for people who want to learn cloud, they should hear this news. So basically what he was trying to say was, so only 4% of global IT spending is on cloud. So now you can imagine, like, rest of the 96% of IT spending is still on-premise. And if you think about it, I mean, the amount of opportunity that is still out there for cloud, it is massive. I mean, he did not mention especially for AWS or anything. I think he was just saying cloud in general, combining AWS, Azure, and GCP. I think Andy answered all your questions about whether you want to start learning cloud now or you should start learning later. But he has said it in one statement that's only 4% the spending. So with that statement, I think you all can make up your mind and right now start learning cloud. So that gives you enough confidence, and there's a huge opportunity for all to learn more and invest our time into cloud. So that's all I wanted to share in this video. I hope you got the whole overview of Andy Jassy's keynote for reInvent 2020. And then if I find anything exciting in other videos with AWS, I'll try to share it here, and I'll try to come up with maybe tutorials on some of these services, like especially in the DevOps area. With that, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comment section if you like this video, and do subscribe to my channel. Thanks. Bye.